Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Check it out right now.
Niners trade for the 3rd overall pick. So, what do they know? Who are they targeting? Who do they like? We can cross off one quarterback. We know that, Trevor Lawrence. So, how do you view now the candidates for the Niners pick?
I think it's safe to say we can cross off Zach Wilson, too. I don't know if it's a lock to go to the Jets. As long as they have Sam Darnold, I would say they would be on the open to, trading. But I think it's pretty clear through NFL media, people around the league, Zach Wilson is going to go number 2 overall. So I think it's down to 3 guys. We have 3 players. We have Justin Fields, the Ohio State quarterback, the number 2 quarterback in his high school class behind Trevor Lawrence. So an elite 5-star recruit, went to Georgia. They picked Jake Fromm. Bad move. He ends up going to Ohio State and had a pretty memorable moment, I'd say, in the Final Four, right? Throwing all those touchdowns.
Yep.
It was badass.
After getting hit, after getting crunched. Right?
It was sweet. And it was, they played Clemson, right? And he kicked their ass. So did they play Clemson? Yeah.
Yeah, they played Clemson. Yeah.
And Bama played Notre Dame. Yeah. So, it was sweet. And then he got hit. And he wasn't good in the championship game. So then there's Trey Lance, which I think is one of the more intriguing prospects in recent years, right? Because the smaller schools didn't play this fall. He had the 1 game, but no one even counts that. Had his 1 year starting. He didn't throw a pick. They won the national championship, but it's like, well, they do win the national championship every year, so it's not as crazy as it sounds. But he's a big-time physical athlete. People like him. He's very intriguing. But as Mel Kiper told us, and I think a lot of people around the league think he's a very raw product that is going to take some time. And then to me, there is the guy that would probably get the most, they really just did that, would be Mac Jones. And I do think Mac Jones, you would say, in Kyle's history, has the most similarities with the Cousins, with the Matty Ices, with the Matt Schaubs. But I just think it has to be Trey Lance or Justin Fields. Now, I don't know people by text messages, like, who are they taking? I don't fucking know. But I do think it's Justin Fields or Trey Lance. I know Daniel Jeremiah, our buddy, tweeted out that don't think it couldn't be Mac Jones. I don't know if you could bank your future on Mac Jones. I think that'd be pretty nuts, don't you?
Yeah, I do, but I would encourage you to draft, again, this is going to not to sound like a cop-out, but you got to draft whoever you believe in the most. And that would mean that they were to believe in Mac Jones over those 2 guys. And we'd go, what? Once upon a time, everyone, the consensus was Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes.
How'd that work out?
Not good. Not good. Now,
I think
Daniel
Jones, another example. Went 6 overall. It felt like that was a big reach.
It felt like somebody had to go 6th, and so that quarterback class was not viewed as this quarterback class.
No.
But I agree with you.
But it was a reach for the guy.
It was a reach
even
for
at
the
the
guy.
time.
Yeah. And Mac Jones would feel like a reach for the guy. You're right.
And I'd say the difference is Daniel Jones a much better athlete. Like if you just said like the Niners had landed Daniel Jones this offseason, I'd be like, oh, I'm kind of intrigued, right? Mac Jones can't move.
I wouldn't be intrigued by Daniel Jones.
Well, I'm just saying if they had got him for like a 4th-round pick or something, like a throwaway. I'm not saying they mortgage the future.
Yeah.
I just don't think you can mortgage the future on a guy in 2020, 21 that can't move. That's my issue. You know where I stand on this. Like their offensive line, like Trent Williams can block. The other guys, like Alex Mack is 36 years old. McGlinchey can't block a soul in pass protection. Mac Jones can't move. He's used to having Pro Bowl offensive linemen in college and then sweet wide receivers. Like, I just think that would be very, very risky for a guy. I know Joe Burrow went from like a 4th, 5th rounder to the number 1 overall pick, but say what you want about Joe Burrow, he can fucking move around. This guy just can't move around. That's the thing that would terrify me. I think his arm's good enough. I think he's a high-level guy. I like Mac Jones, but mortgaging my franchise on Mac Jones to me is very, very risky.
Well, I guess we shouldn't quite celebrate yet that Kyle Shanahan has seen the light and changed the type of quarterback that he would target.
That's why I put this guy on the list. I think it's possible.
But I do think this. I do think, back to the point you made earlier in the podcast, he also has played against Patrick Mahomes in the biggest game he's ever coached in, right? Bigger than the other game he coached in when Brady beat him. He had Matty Ice. That was a different animal. He was the head coach.
Plays against Russell Wilson 8 times, right?
But again, this is not just the athlete. Plays against Russell Wilson. You're right. Watched his defense just annihilate Jared Goff, who's a statue, and then plays Kyler. Yeah. And then, like you said, Josh Allen. So And then here's the other thing with Kyle. This is where you and I joke, we have fun about the QB collective thing. But Kyle is consistently around what is the modern young quarterback before they get to college or even when they're in college, right? He's consistently around the Justin Fields of the world. Like, he sees what all these guys coming up look like. And I've got to think that excites him. Like, no matter how much you love being in total control, if you think of yourself as one of the best race car drivers, you want to have the fastest race car. Even if you think, I don't need the fastest race car to beat everybody. And when I say that, the analogy does not mean quarterbacks that can run. It just means the most talented quarterbacks. Given everything that we've seen, everything we've talked about, how could he not look at Trey Lance or Justin Fields and say, let me work with that? There is so much to work with there.
Do you know who I think a pretty good Mac Jones comp would have some similarities, would be Jared Goff. And his buddy and their rival just fucking shipped Jared Goff the hell. Do you think Mac Jones, like, what are the percent chances you'd say Mac Jones is as good as Jared Goff? Wouldn't you say probably pretty low? Like, Jared's had a pretty good career.
Yeah, I mean, Jared was drafted 2 overall or 1 overall, coming from less production in college, right? He wasn't coming from Alabama. They did not have a lot, and he came from the air raid. I mean, at the time, I guess it was more of a unique offense. Now everybody's running just wide open offense, but yeah, the odds are not good. Like, John, as we talk about these three, even given some of Kyle's history, I would be shocked if he drafted Mac Jones here.
I know where I lean, and the difference for me is because to me it's between Lance and Fields. The difference for me in Lance and Fields is I'm just leaning with the blue chip guy. I'm leaning with the guy that I watched against Clemson throw all those touchdowns. I'm leaning with the guy that can run a 4.3. I'm leaning with the guy that when the media told everybody, shut it down, don't play, this guy was not only outspoken, he fucking drew a line in the sand.
Not the media told everybody. The Big Ten said we're not playing.
Yeah, and the media celebrated it.
Yeah, but again, the Big Ten said we're not playing. He was not just out there tweeting. Like, he was going,
he was talking to the presidents, and he was outspoken. He was leading the charge, and I'm like, I like this guy. And yeah, I mean, he had skin in the game to the better he could play the draft, but he was a hype guy going into this year, right? To me, if Ohio State hadn't played a game, he would have been in the mix for a top 10 pick. But I love this guy's attitude, everything I've heard about his character. Now, he's raw. He needs some work. But as Mel Kiper said, like, can you guys see the big picture? Justin Herbert needed work. Josh Allen needed work. This is the league, is Justin Fields. And you could argue maybe Trey Lance is that guy too. So these guys spend so much time watching because whoever they draft, when it comes out, they better come out and said, we watched every snap all these guys ever took in college. Because that's what's on the line right now, right? They better have not.
Well, how could they not have done that? I mean, especially if it's Trey Lance, there's so many fewer snaps.
I'm just saying, like, every snap all these guys have ever taken ever. I might even get high school tape. I'm doing.
Well, maybe he goes back and watches the QB collective practice tape.
Justin Fields would be my pick. Now, again, like, sometimes you got to be careful. I would have been like, I would take Jared Goff over Carson Wentz, and I know their careers have both kind of got derailed, but it was clear about a couple years in, like, God, Carson's just a different animal than Jared Goff, and so you can't just, it's not the stars and where you play college football. It doesn't determine NFL success, but I do think Justin Fields checks basically every box you could ask for being a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I do think, I agree with that. I do think it's almost now, the Niners did not go to the Trey Lance Pro Day, right? Which does not make me think that they don't like him.
Well, they didn't go to the McGlinchey Pro Day.
Yeah, when it happened, I thought, that's a little too obvious. Okay, but we'll see. But we do understand also
they are big on Pro Day games. It's like, come on, guys, just no one cares.
Pro Day games? What do you mean?
Well,
just playing the game. Yeah, lists. Yeah, I know.
Like, it's like, oh, they sent their linebacker coach to the North Dakota State. They got to
throw him off the set. Throw him off the set. Yeah. As you and I both were texting today, it'll be interesting to see Andy Reid, and now Andy gets the upper hand on Dax Milne from BYU. You know, he's going to get to him before Kyle, but I do. Look, here's what we know about Kyle. So much of what matters to him too is when he sits down with the quarterback and goes, what do I think this guy can handle, right? The clip of Matt Ryan that you and I loved from a few years ago before the Super Bowl, where Matt Ryan has to he recites this entire play and it's super long and he gets one word wrong.
It was like 17 words.
I wrote it down, actually. I wrote it down somewhere because it was so long. I used to be able to memorize it. But that's going to matter here too, right? That is going to be a part of this. And this is where you go back to the beauty of having Lance and Fields is athletically they're both so special that if Kyle's picking between the two of them, he's still picking a special athlete.
That's where Mac Jones makes me nervous because he's going to be able to.
I don't
want
to talk about that right now. We can get to that later.
He's going to be able to recite all that crap. I think you're overrating. There's a balance. I remember hearing when Blake Bortles coming out, the knock on him was he's a meathead. And when I say a meathead, he was wired more like a defensive lineman or something, and it's a cerebral position. But part of it is are you smart enough to just handle what we're just going to keep throwing at you, which is going to be intense. It's going to take some time. You got to project that, right?
Sure.
There's you can't get overwhelmed if you give this guy something, then he stutters it back the wrong word. Well, it's it might take him a couple minutes. Even Matt Ryan said he wanted to kill Kyle after their first year. In their second year, they won the MVP.
Exit to east, right, nasty, 2 scat Cherokee, can 3 scat, both hammer. That was the call. Exit to east, right, nasty, 2 scat Cherokee, can 3 scat, both hammer. And I think Kyle goes, actually, Kyle changed one of the words. Kyle said it, and Matt Ryan was like, no, it was the other way. It was right, not left, or something like it. It was bananas.
Yeah. We just got to be careful with some of this stuff.
No, I agree. I do think you can overdo it. But again, this is where I go back to. This is not Cousins and RG3, right? This is not two extremes athletically. These guys are on the same side of the spectrum. That's what I think gives you some. And here's something else I've seen over the course of Friday is the Niners must believe there's 3 elite quarterbacks in this draft. Well, not necessarily. I mean, they might just think we think the guy we can get is really good. It's not a reflection of what they think of Trevor Lawrence. If they know Zach Wilson's going second, it's not a reflection of what they think of Zach Wilson. For all we know, whoever they drafted 3, they'd take over whoever gets drafted at 2, right? For all we know, they like Trey Lance more than Zach Wilson. They might. So, the odds are never good that there's 3 elite quarterbacks in a draft, particularly in the first round.
Well, to me, you don't waste any time on Trevor Lawrence. You just stack the group, including Zach Wilson, with Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones, right? And then you just go, would we be comfortable taking either of these guys? Would we be comfortable taking 3 of the 4? Would we only be comfortable with 1? That's why I don't think there's under no circumstances could they not know at least 90% of what the Jets are thinking. I think they know.
I do too. But could I throw one more scenario at you that just hit me?
Yes.
What did the Bears have to give the 49ers to go from 3 to 2?
A second and a third.
So the Niners don't. That would seem extreme at this point, given what they just did.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
But but here's the thing: if you like Sam Darnold, and you are the Jets, you're in a premium position because you just saw a team go from 12 to 3, 1 spot behind you, and give up 2 extra ones and a third, right?
Yeah. You could, you're in good shot. Good shape.
It's you have to have somebody who's buying. So if the Jets are shopping that pick, you would think a lot of people would be buying.
Yes.
But is there a scenario where we roll into draft day and nobody's given the Jets what they want, enough to move back, right? And the Jets go, okay, we don't want to go back to whatever 6 or 12 or what? Who knows? I mean, I guess 6 and 12, those two teams just traded. But you know what I'm saying? And the Jets go, we don't want to go back too far, but we like Darnold enough. We'll just go back with the Niners.
I think
Niners don't really have a lot of.
You could.
I mean,
listen, you already come this far. What the hell?
Yeah. All right. Here we go.